This episode of Express Training Bites is brought to you by PageFlip. Not going to in-person trade shows this year and still need to get your catalogs out to those distributors? Upload your digital catalog to Promo Corner's PageFlip. Contact sales at promocorner.com. This is Express Training Bites. I am Brandon Petrich, and with me today I have my buddy, my really good pal, my friend in the beer garden, Brett Long from the Magnet Group. Brett, how are we doing today, man?
I'm great, Brandon. I'm great. I'd rather be in a beer garden right now with you. That'll be quite honest. But here we are, and it's 10 degrees and 2 feet of snow here in Wisconsin. So, yeah, good times.
Yeah, and Austin isn't much better. We normally have better weather, but it is ice, rain, and all types of cold down here too. So let's forget about that for a little bit and get right into this. So I wanted to bring Brett on because I had just recently watched him on a live with UMAP, and he was talking about a really neat service that the Magnet Group does, but I think a lot of suppliers have, which is spec samples. And I wanted to kind of talk to Brett a little bit about that. So I've got a couple of questions queued up for him. If you do have any questions for Brett about spec samples or about the Magnet Group or whatever that you would like him to answer during this, go ahead and put it in the comment section on this side, I think it is. And we will try to get to those during this live segment. So I'm just going to get right into it, Brett. So not being able to see or go into distributors' offices for just about a year. It's been about a year now.
Almost.
How have you been able to get to your customers to still show and have them touch the products that you sell?
Sure. A lot of it starts on platforms just like this. You're doing Facebook Lives or you're doing, Zoom meetings and what have you. And you just, try to have those conversations with some good partners and be like, hey, what are you working on? How can I help you? And then eventually, or hopefully, it leads to a discussion about spec samples. And we at the Magnet Group, we really, we're big into pushing that. Fun fact: we're actually required. Us salespeople are required to turn in a certain number of spec samples every week. So, not only are we helping you, our customers sell to their clients, you're helping me fulfill my quota on spec samples. So it's a win-win. Nothing to worry about there. And I think we have a really good close rate on those specs turning into new business. So we're happy to do that for anybody out there free of charge, and the turn time is really rapid, a couple days.
Whoa. Okay. So that brings me into my second one. So obviously you are with the Magnet Group. I know there's a lot of other suppliers out there that do specs too, but how in the heck are you guys able, so there's a difference between a virtual sample and a spec sample. So I know there's a lot of new people out there in the industry. I know I'm going to get a lot of crap for this question, but can you first of all explain the difference between a virtual and a spec, and then kind of explain how Magnet is able to do that?
Sure, absolutely. I'm going to focus primarily just on magnets, like a flat magnet, your standard refrigerator magnet or whatever. Happy to do virtuals on that. Happy to do virtuals on literally anything that we sell. We've got 7 other brands, but the thing is with a magnet virtual on a computer screen, you're just looking at like a digital image of it, and there's no dimension to it at all. It just looks like a lot of times just like the art file, because it's flat. There's, so we actually updated some equipment at Magnet probably about a year and a half ago, maybe it was 2.5 years ago now, that enables us to do these one-off, oftentimes die-cut spec samples. When in the past we had to create a die, and it's all done by hand. There was a die charge involved. That's in the past. So yeah, with some upgraded equipment, we can turn these fast, ship them direct to you or your end user. And it's so much more impactful to get this actual magnet spec sample in somebody's hands as it is to just see the virtual on a screen, not really understanding, how it works. And another cool thing too about magnet spec samples is that they're one of the few items that are truly customizable. You can throw a logo on a water bottle, on a backpack, or, a journal, whatever. But you're still going to be limited to that imprint space on there. On the magnet, you've got a cool logo that's got some cool intricate, cuts to it or shapes or what have you. We can cut those specs to size, so it's a truly customizable shape, which is really cool.
That is amazing. I love that. I mean, because when I was listening to you talk about that, I was like, okay, I've been on the supplier side and I know how hard it is to ramp up production. And for you guys to be able to do spec samples, which means you don't have to run 100 of them, you're only
Yeah,
running a few.
yeah.
And to be able to get those out, that is just really awesome. So how can, like, there's the virtual sample that looks like a piece of art. There's the
Mhm.
spec sample that actually has their artwork on the deal. What,
Yep.
how are you seeing your customers use these spec samples in tandem with these virtual meetings and events, these Zoom
Sure,
meetings that we're
sure.
having?
Yeah, a lot of times, our end users, just like us, are sitting here behind their desks, on a video camera, and they're meeting with their customers, through Zoom or what have you. They can send them that artwork, that virtual, that mock-up like that, and say, hey, by the way, check your mail. I sent you an actual, hard spec sample of this, just so you can kind of get a feel for it.
Yeah.
And that wins them over so many times because, like we were saying just before, you have that depth and dimension to it. You can see the size, you can feel the weight of the magnet. So that really is a game changer to, you're hitting them both ways. They have that little reminder on their screen, with the mock-up, the virtual on their screen, but they've got it in their hand, to play with and eventually hopefully get some business out of it. We've got a really cool phrase here at Magnet. Shout out to my boy Ray Jimenez: specs equal checks. So hashtag that, whatever you got to do with it. It's true. It's true. There's so many. I'm glad that one got you.
Yes,
There's
dude.
it's great, right? It's led to countless new opportunities, new orders. We were tracking it for a while when we first brought in this new equipment, and I want to say, like, in the 3-month time that we were really pushing to do these one-off spec samples, we did somewhere close to $1 million, in just business that wasn't even there before, because we said, hey, send me that art, let me do this free spec sample for you, or three free specs. And what do you know, it turned into countless new orders. So, and another cool thing too, maybe they said, this is a cool item, I love the idea, maybe I don't want it on a magnet, but hey, I want to see it like on a dry erase board, I want to see it on something else. So it's a conversation piece, if nothing else, and it's led to countless new opportunities.
Oh man, you took the question right out of my mouth. That's what I was going to ask. I mean, it's one of those things where once somebody sees their name, you can give somebody an amazing product, but if it doesn't have their name on it, they don't know they can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I think that's just so cool that when somebody actually sees their logo, their name, their whatever on a product, it has a totally different feeling. They're instantly connected to that product, or
Mm-hmm.
they instantly start thinking about what else they could put it on. So that's awesome.
Yep.
Specs equals checks, dude.
Yeah.
And the fact that it came from Ray is just 1,000 times better
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
oh man, that is hilarious.
That's
All
good.
right, I'm gonna kind of switch up and kind of think future here now. So we know that you guys have been able to do this. We know how we're using them now in the virtual selling office. When we start going back out and in office visits, do you think that the power of the spec sample is going to be stronger, the same? How did you use it before, and how do you think you will use it in the future?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure, absolutely. I gotcha. Yeah, since we were really pushing this before pandemic times, it was working just as well then. I think, as we were just saying a minute ago, it might be working a little better now just because it's an extra touch point and it's an extra, thing for an end user to, to have and touch and feel. But it's something we're not going to stop doing. Once we're back in somebody's offices, I think people might be a little more inclined to say, oh yeah, I actually want to. Maybe they sit down with you after the presentation. They're like, hey, I've got these 3 projects I'm working on. Let's do some magnet specs or whatever else. So, in the in-person meetings, I think they tend to open up, a little bit more than just saying, click, I'm done with this meeting. And then you got to track them down, send them an email or two and be like, hey, you said you were going to send me that art. That's one of the issues, that is a little bit of a drawback of being virtual. There's a lot of chasing people down for things. Not everybody. Some people are totally gung-ho about it. I've got this one gal, excuse me, up in Minnesota. She's really bought into this system. Just about every week, she reaches out and says, hey, we've got this client. We're trying to do magnets with them. They've never done it before, or maybe they just rebranded or whatever. She makes a point to reach out to me just about weekly and say, hey, can we do 3 or 4 magnet specs for them? And I always say yes. And, we'll get a new order out of it. And then a week later, she's like, hey, I've got this other one. So If we can get everybody to do that for us, it's going to keep going now, after the pandemic, and hopefully, years to follow. So yeah, it's worked before, it's working now, it'll continue to work. But I do think being face to face, people might be a little more, comfortable with it, maybe, if nothing else.
Yep.
And another thing too, this is something that we haven't really touched on, but I wanted to mention it previously. One of the things that I've done quite often, and some of my colleagues have, getting with your customers, and especially in these times, getting their end users on a Zoom call. I did it a lot in person before. They bring me in as like a partner. It's like, hey, and this is Brett, my supplier partner, and we'll come in proactively, like in an in-person meeting, and say, hey, we did up like these 5 spec samples for you. And a lot of times people are surprised by it. Like if they haven't told them, they're like, holy smokes, I've got it on a tumbler and I've got it on a charger and all these other things. But we've done that too a lot during these Zoom meetings and things, where we brought on end users and sent them, say, hey, don't open up, like it's an unboxing. Don't open up this package until we do this meeting. And sure enough, they open it up and they're like, this is really cool. I never knew I could do this on a magnet or whatever else we're doing.
That is so cool. That's the thing that we're missing with the in-person, right? And that I'm so glad you hammered that point, because that is something that I feel like the in-person meetings have lost. With losing the in-person meeting, that's what we've lost, is that they haven't been able to touch the product. They haven't been able to visualize it in their hands. There's just something about the end user seeing it, and it just makes the distributor's job so much easier. So with that being said, with everybody watching this right now, if you are a distributor and you're not doing spec samples, contact Brett.
That's right. That's right. Shame on you if you're not. But those that may have experienced it, I think they can vouch for us pretty good and say it's a system that works. It's easy. I mean, all you're doing is emailing an art file, and we do the rest. If they need a proof, we'll send them a virtual proof. They can say, this is great, or maybe switch this. We'll do that all on the front end, and then out comes the magnet a couple days later, and there they go.
Well, and that kind of help. Does that help with the order process, having the spec done up at the front end?
Yeah, absolutely. We just say, reference this spec order on your potential order, or on your actual order. We've got it all set up already, and bing, boom, bam, there it goes, and it takes all the guesswork and even proofing.
Oh gosh, I didn't even think about that part of it too. Because that's the big part with orders, right? Is we have this production time, and all of a sudden 7 to 10 days turns into 14 to 20, because we're waiting a week for an art proof, or we're waiting for somebody to approve something, or there was an email that got lost, but you can take all of that out in the front end and excite your customer for the order by doing a spec sample. That is really
we
cool.
track it all. It's all in the system. Just reference whatever the spec is, and it's so much more efficient that way. Yeah, like you said, you're not waiting, 2-3 days, whatever for a proof. It's already done.
Yep. So, do you personally use spec samples? I mean, when you're doing your sales to distributors, are you doing a lot of spec samples yourself too, or is this, do you have a budget yourself that Magnet allows you to have?
On the magnet side of things, there's really no budget. They basically say, fill up this pipeline until the art department can't handle it anymore. So it's true. So we're a little more careful on some things that might be a higher ticket item. Some of the higher end backpacks or tech items, we really want those to be qualified opportunities. But when we're talking about flat magnets, the average price of a magnet, the sell on it is under 50 cents. So we're going to run those all day for you. No budget. I mean, if you're going to send me 50 art files, I might be like, let's do the 5 most important first. That's another thing too. It's I love it if people want to take advantage of it, but let's do it within reason, kind of thing. Because at the same time, we're actually trying to fill real orders. But not to say to deter anybody from sending over art, but let's make sure these are qualified opportunities, or someone you're trying to get in the door with. Maybe it's a new client you just landed and you want to show them something that maybe nobody else has. By all means, we'll work on those projects. And then also another pointer kind of thing. I feel like this is something everybody should know, but I tell you, just about every day I get an email. Somebody says, "See what you can pull from this website." That's not how it works. I mean, seriously, we're in 2021 here. Send me actual high res art. That's To me, that seems like basic 101 promo. We're not going to pull art for a magnet from a website. Just let's do better. Let's do better.
I just saw on the live stream, I saw a bunch of laughing emojis, a couple of angry emojis. I have a feeling we have a lot of art people watching us right now, and
Probably.
they are applauding you for saying that.
Yeah.
So
It's true. It's true. You know, if you're a beginner in the industry, I don't want to talk down to people, and I hope I didn't come across that way. But
no.
if you say all I have, is this website, chances are, they might not be your client yet. Just ask them. Ask them. Everyone's got some kind of art file. Because if their art ended up on a website, it had to be high res at one point somewhere else. Just
exactly.
Ask those questions, and let's make it count on actual qualified projects.
Oh, that is awesome, man. I love it. Do you have anything else you want to tell? How can people actually, Brett, how can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you, get some magnet spec samples?
Yeah, right on. My email address is my first initial B, last name Long, B Long at themagnetgroup.com. Make sure you put the magnet group in there. So yeah, B Long at themagnetgroup.com. Happy to do this for you guys, and love to have some conversations on the projects and what have you. But all we need to do, we don't even need a shipper number for these, which is rare. We can ship them because we primarily ship them just via U.S. mail. If you do want them to go FedEx or UPS, we can do that. But let us know if we're shipping them to your end user or to you. We can do both. I would say 9 out of 10 times I'm running like 2 of the same spec at the same time, sending one to the customer, one to the end user. So pretty simple to do.
Guys, how awesome is that? We talk about lumpy mail all the time and how expensive it is to do it that way. But with a magnet that is nice and thin, goes right into an envelope, goes into USPS, and it goes right out to your customer.
Exactly.
This is a no-brainer to build business, to get new clients, to get into a different department of a larger area, of a larger business. I mean, this is a massive sales tool brought to you by the Magnet Group. Right. Brett, thank you so much, man, for joining me today.
Man, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. I could go on and on. I'm happy to have more conversations with people about this offline or what have you. Our direct mail business kind of ties into our magnet business a lot, where we could slap a magnet on a direct mail postcard. That's something that's really been huge for us during these pandemic times, because everybody's home. Everyone's home, and you go check your mailbox every day. That might be the highlight of your day. Because everyone's got a mailbox, and a lot of people are trying to get in front of people in different ways now. So consider direct mail, postcards, and slap that magnet on there for double return rates on it.
We actually just got a question in on Facebook, so there is a little bit of a delay. I'm going to go ahead and read this question. We're going to go ahead and answer it. So it's Eric Lerner. Eric asks, does it help to have a calendar attached
to the artwork?
To the magnet itself, like, so that it's used more? Like what type of spec sample is the best? Just a regular magnet, or have something that's a little more intricate?
Sure. I mean, doing a calendar magnet, we have the stock art for, your 2021 calendar. Good thing about doing that, I mean, we can use client provided calendars if it's high res again on that. But the best thing about calendar magnets is you get a reorder every year. It's 2022. I want my calendar magnet. So yeah, calendar magnets are a great tool. They're one of our best sellers, just like sports schedule magnets are. I mean, obviously we don't have in-person sports, or just a little bit right now, but it depends on what city you're in. But if you've got a Major League Baseball team, or just about every major sports team out there is doing a schedule magnet. And that's just one of those things that reorders every year. I know we're in digital times and everyone can look on their phone at the schedule. I get it. I do it too. But it's just a great item that everybody looks forward to, like, every year. So yeah, things like calendar magnets and schedule magnets, they're an awesome seller and lead to those reorders that everybody wants.
That is awesome. Eric, thank you so much for the question, bud. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Brett, thank you so much for taking your time today. And thank you so much for watching Express Training Bites. You can check this out every Thursday live, or we will take these episodes, cut them down, and put them up on Promo Journal on Tuesday afternoon. So you can always catch them over there. And so we will see you next Thursday.
Thanks, Brandon.